Now, welcome to chapter 2. Now, in chapter 2, we're going to look at the role of advertising in marketing. And probably, where we are today, you might have learned some information from chapter 1 that will help us or help you in trying to move forward with chapter 2. Now, some of the things we are going to look at in chapter 2 is to look at a marketing plan for a business, but from a marketing perspective. We're also going to look at the integrated marketing approach, the way we also identified that in chapter 1. So, as we go through this chapter, the things we're going to try to focus on is to be able to identify advertising and marketing goals and objectives. And the reason why we are doing this is we want to see the place of advertising in marketing for an organization. And therefore, we always have to use, or we're going to use the marketing plan for the company and be able to find, how advertising fits into marketing plan, and so therefore we'll be able to help the organization achieve its objective. These can be business objectives, can also be marketing objectives. We're also going to explain the importance of advertising and how we measure advertising, and we're going to look at the use of or using a return on investment approach in trying to measure advertising, and of course the goal that we achieve from there, which is in terms of profitability. Because remember, from chapter 1 or from your marketing 101, you have realized the goal of marketing is to serve customers, but with the goal of profit be the motive, especially if this is a public venture. And then we're also going to explain the institutional roles of advertising for consumers, for business, and society, and then describe the 4 primary types of marketing communication. And therefore, we are going to look at what we call the promotional mix, and we also see how the promotional mix fits into the marketing plan. And then we're also going to identify the primary components and considerations of advertising strategy. And then lastly, we are going to wind up by looking at 4 types of advertising directed towards consumers. And we look at this either from B2C or B2B or C2C, and we shall see what the B and the C basically stand for. So let me give you an overview of what is happening in terms of the business environment and in terms of the marketing environment. Now, if you look at the business environment, we all agree that the business environment is always dynamic. It's always changing. Because of so many factors within the environment, which can be political factors, legal factors, economic factors, social cultural factors, and so on. Or could be global factors. And one of those components of the business, or one of those elements of the business environment, is always technology. So we also see some changes in technology, and therefore they tend to affect the overall goals of the business. But the point I'm trying to address here is to look at the convergence and the advertising environment. So we are looking at, yes, we are seeing so many changes technology-wise, but we also see changes in the business world. But if we are going to use marketing as a way of achieving the business objectives, then it goes by saying we need to understand the business environment, understand the marketing environment. But in this case is, how can we use technology to help the organization achieve its objectives, specifically marketing objectives? And we can look at this, deeper by looking at the issues to do with the content convergence, how, which kind of content should we use in order for us to achieve our business or our marketing objectives. So we shall look at that as we go through this. Now, to give us an understanding of how or the role of advertising in business, we can first of all try to figure out this, because every business or every organization tends to have a marketing plan. So if you look at a marketing plan, which you have done this maybe also in Marketing 101, or maybe in a Principles of Management class, or even an Introduction Business class, this should be something similar or familiar to you. Some of the things you have covered or you have seen that are contained in a marketing plan are as what you see on the slide here. And we understand that a marketing plan consists of various processes, or various phases or stages, and the goal here is to be able to serve our customers or be able to address our customer needs, but from a marketing perspective. And to do so, we need to understand who our customers are, and to do so, we also need to understand the kind of strategies that we're going to adopt to achieve that marketing objectives, and also to help us achieve the business objectives, right? Therefore, the most important thing we always start with is to undertake what we call the understanding the business objective, or the business mission, and the, of course, the marketing objectives, because we are going to create marketing objectives for the business objective. Because what you want to do is to be able to implement marketing objectives that are going to help the business achieve its business objectives. So you cannot set from marketing objectives and create business objectives. No, since business objectives are already there, since the business has a mission statement, so we pick up from the mission statement and ask ourselves, how can we use marketing to help the organization achieve its business objectives? So we start from the business objectives and mission statement and be able to create some marketing objectives. But then the question comes in, how are we going to achieve those marketing objectives? And the best answer to that is to ask ourselves, what strategy are we going to use? What marketing mix elements are we going to adopt? So we don't have an answer to that until we have to go through a series of steps or processes that makes up a marketing plan in order for us to have a future kind of scenario or objective for the business. So in this case, for example, so once we understand the business objectives or business goals, the next thing we need to do is to understand the environment and to understand the business itself. So what we do is we move to what we call a situational analysis phase, and in that phase what we try to do is to undertake an internal analysis of the business and also to undertake the external analysis of the business. So we use a model called the SWOT, what we call the SWOT analysis model, to analyze the internal environment and also to analyze the external environment of the business, but specifically it trying to focus more on a marketing perspective point of view. So what the strategic analysis is going to help us is to identify any strength the business has and also any weaknesses the business has. But the goal is to have more strength so that we can leverage or capitalize on the weaknesses. Again, when it comes to the external aspect, we also look at the opportunities and the threats the business is facing. And the goal again is to be able to identify and go for those opportunities that can also help the business mitigate some of the threats the business is facing. So once we identify some of those strengths, we could be in case of the company has a strong brand name. So a strong brand name could be a significant strength the business has. But the competition and maybe sluggish market share or profits or sales could be one of the some of the threats the business is facing. Then in the next step, which is step 3, what we try to do is to identify opportunities. Remember, we can identify these opportunities by basically analyzing the environment, both internal and external, especially analyzing the external environment. We can be able to identify the opportunities in the business. For example, by undertaking the external analysis, we can identify some of the unmet needs in the markets. And therefore that could be an opportunity the business should be able to pursue. We can maybe identify that the changes in demographics, for example, which could be maybe at a huge advantage for the business. That could be maybe an opportunity for the business to think about in terms of maybe new products the business need to focus on and try to capture the increase or the changes in some of the demographics and so on. And then once we identify those, but remember, in trying to identify the opportunities, the goal then comes back to trying to group the markets, because you identify opportunities in different market segments or in the whole market. But then as a business, you're not going to capture, you're not going to go for the whole market. What you're trying to do is identify a specific market segment or 2 or 3 market segments that you can focus on, simply because you might not have the resources to go for every single market segment that is outside of there. So what you do is you divide the market into segments, into groups, where in each of the market segment that you have segmented or identified, we have consumers or customers that tend to have similar characteristics or similar needs. And that's why if customers have similar needs in one market segment, then it becomes very easy for you to be able to target that market segment. So what you're going to do is you divide the market into different segments based on a number of factors. Could be issue identify maybe in terms of income levels. It could be in terms of age. It could be in terms of race. It could be in terms of gender and so on. So and then now you identify the target market that you're going to target. That way you try to streamline your focus into one market segment. But then the question we're trying to address here is, how will you meet the needs of consumers in that target market that you have selected? Because there should be a way, there should be a strategy that you have to select to try to capture that target market. But before you do that, could be you can think about in terms of position strategies. For example, you've selected a target market, but then the question comes in, how are you going to reach the target market? How do you want consumers in that target market to perceive you? How do you want potential consumers in that target market to consume? So this is an issue of perception management when it comes to positioning, because you have to identify a way that you're going to be distinct, or you're going to be unique or different from your competitors, and therefore you want consumers to see you in that way. So it's an issue of how can we drive that perception to consumers, and we can do this in a number of ways, and we're going to see one of the roles to do this is maybe through advertisement as a way of trying to position or to create perception in consumers' mind. And then the next thing we have to do is step 4, where we have to implement a marketing mix. So that's now where the IMC comes in, the integrated marketing communication comes in, because you're going to see we still have to find a price that we are going to charge. We still have to find how we're going to distribute or make consumers access the products. We are also going to identify the product features, and again, and then lastly, we have to identify how we're going to promote or communicate or create awareness of the product, to consumers, because there should be a way consumers should be made aware of the product and how we can go about in trying to build a brand for the company or for the product. So that would be an element of the 4 P's of marketing, what we call the foundation of any marketing 101 or any marketing class. that you take. And then within the promotion mix, then we also have other promotional mix, and that is where we introduce the issue of or IMC, where we say you're not just going to promote the product by trying to focus on one channel of communication. You have to identify several different types of channels that you're going to use. It could be radio, could be newspaper, could be interactive, then you're going to, could be direct marketing, could be advertising, could be personal selling. So you have to identify different mix elements that you're going to use, so different components or elements that you're going to use in trying to communicate the awareness, or create the awareness of the product to consumers. And then lastly, what we do in a marketing plan is you have to identify a way in which you're going to measure the success of the marketing plan. You have to have a way of trying to identify whether you have achieved your marketing objectives by having the plan in place. So we undertake the assessment of the performance of the marketing objectives by trying to look at a number of metrics, and there's so many ways you can do this. You can probably maybe use a BCG model. That's the Boston Consulting Group model in trying to help you measure some of the metrics. You can look at return on investment as a way of trying to measure the performance of the marketing plan. But remember, anytime we talk about advertisement, it could be a cost, and therefore being a cost to some extent, then you also have to have a financial plan that you have to embed within the marketing plan. And the whole thing, again, looking at this, identifying opportunities, is all about trying to undertake some kind of research in trying to identify what consumers are really looking for, and what consumers want, the consumer needs and wants, in order for you to find a product that is going to fit the needs of your target market. So all you find that there's several processes that you have to undertake in trying to understand what the marketing plan is all about. So if you look at it, you find these are some of the things that you have to focus on to look at this. Now, next